Dear students, welcome back to yet another session with Shubhra ma'am. In today's session, we'll be talking about India-Russia relation. Recently, President Putin from Russia had visited India and met Prime Minister Modi for a few hours. It was seen as giving a new lease of life to the India-Russia relations. One of the most talked about or discussed element was the concept of Sangam that was given by Prime Minister Modi. The concept of Sangam basically talks about the convergences of ideas, people, just like the convergences of rivers, which is a case in the Indian civilization. And he said that the India-Russia relation is like a Sangam. And the another aspect, or a very interesting aspect that was talked about, was the Chennai-Vladivostok maritime corridor. So if you look at the map, you have India, Afghanistan, Iran, and this whole wide vast land, Russia. And the maritime corridor starts from Chennai and goes all the way from Indo-Pacific to Vladivostok right here. So this is a corridor that is being discussed and is currently in the state of being made as well. Apart from that, Arctic, or the above global common that we see as, is now an important component of India-Russia relations. To know more about these concepts, let's directly go and ask Shubhra ma'am about India-Russia relations. Dear students, welcome to yet another session with Shubhra Ranjan ma'am. Today, we are going to explore India's relation with Russia. For a very long time, or in the past few years, we have been talking about the fact that India and Russia have somewhere lost their intensive friendship. And just last week, we had President Putin visiting India, which gave a new lease of life to this relation. In this context, we are going to ask ma'am some questions about the relation and what kind of questions can come from for the mains perspective. Ma'am, could you just elaborate on the current situation between India and Russia?
So, if we go by the joint statement on the occasion of this visit, as well as the separate statements of both the leaders, we can say the relationship is steady, relationship is strong, relationship is getting stronger in an institutionalized sense, because we also had first 2+2 dialogue. And I believe that because last year's summit was cancelled, there were a lot of speculations on the future. And this extraordinary summit, we can say, because this is Putin's only second outreach in this particular year. One, he went to meet Biden. So definitely it has ended the cobweb, and it has in a way has reassured the diplomatic circles in both the countries as an analyst that all is well, I can say. And definitely we are going to move in a much more better directions in future. These are the indications I can get from the joint statement.
So, the recent Modi-Putin summit took place when there was a lot of chatter by the political analysts that India is getting close to US, especially with the Quad gaining importance. In this light, how would you see, Russia, India, Pakistan, China axis?
Yeah. So there has been this view that they are drifting apart, and India is going closer to US, which is a strategic competitor and opponent of Russia. And similarly, Russia is going closer to Pakistan, our biggest security threat. But I think that in the present age of complex interdependence, we should not be looking at the relationship through this zero-sum mentality. And we have to be very clear that Russia and India, they do placed in a different geostrategic and geopolitical environment, and Russia's closeness with Pakistan is in not way anything with the intention to harm India, nor India's closeness with USA is with the intention to harm Russia. And in fact, these are certain strategic imperatives, but we should never forget, considering China, neighbor for both the countries, we should never forget Kautilya's wisdom that neighbor's neighbor is your natural friend. And obviously, India and Russia relationship is quite natural and they are bound to come together.
Ma'am, so, let's come to Afghanistan. And we saw that initially, with the US withdrawal, Afghanistan became a matter of conflict between India and Russia, because Russia had then not supported India's stand. But now, with Russia accepting the Delhi Declaration, ma'am, can you throw some light on the convergences and divergences between these two countries?
Yeah, so if we talk about Afghanistan, we can say that it appeared there is a divergence, because India's solution was not that Taliban should be in power, but Russia was looking best out of worst, and in context of other ISKP and other non-state actors, Russia found that this can be the best out of worst. But at the same time, we find that Russia has always looked towards India. In fact, India's indirect communications with the Taliban leadership and unofficial channels started through through the Russia itself. Like, we first made an unofficial participation in the talks in the Moscow, and right now huge convergence appears. For example, both, when I talk about a RIC Triangle Summit, which has happened, where India, Russia, and even China had to agree that we need an inclusive government. Another thing is, during this particular summit, Russia and India had a convergence that we should be providing the humanitarian aid to Afghanistan, and most probably Russia will be including India in the Troika Plus. So the convergences are becoming more prominent, I believe.
Ma'am, what about trade? Last year the trade numbers were declining. How do you see the trade becoming an important component?
Yeah, trade is important because in the present stage, no relationship can move only on single track. So, government to government relationship is good, but because of different reasons, we do not have that much robust people to people relationship or business to business relationship. And after many efforts, we think that this bilateral trade is not reaching to its potential. But I believe that both the countries are taking a more practical approach. There is a convergence into Putin's pivot to Asia and Modi's Act Far East. So as they have explored Far East region of Russia and later on the Arctic as a new area of cooperation, I think it will give us some significant results, and things will become much better.
Ma'am, can you throw some light on Prime Minister Modi's idea about Sangam?
Oh, yeah, Sangam, our prime minister is like often gives these type of terms, like he gave the concept of Project Mosam and now this Sangam. So Sangam has a civilizational heritage because it is representing the confluence of the rivers, and we know that rivers along are the like along the river civilizations have grown. And I remember, I think it is Agge's book, from Ganga to Volga, and maybe he is exploring same idea that the connectivity between these two civilizations, their people, their ideas in Far East can be a new basis for finding out a new area of collaboration. So this Sangam idea is where Sangam can emerge in future as a very important geostrategic concept also, because according to Prime Minister Modi, Sangam represent the convergence of two regions which are going to be very, very important. One is Indo-Pacific and other is Russia's Far East, which you can extend to Eurasian region.
So, there have been so many articles since the Putin Modi summit. And again, it's very difficult for a student to charter all this, especially with the main so close by. So, ma'am, this brings us to the last expected question. What kind of questions do we expect?
We can expect continuity and change in India-Russia relations. We can expect areas of convergences and divergences, but I believe that India-Russia cooperation in the Arctic region can be a probable question in general studies, in political science optional, more analytical question that despite lot of geopolitical churn, India-Russia relations continue to be one of the most important area of partnership. So something like that you may expect, and don't ignore Far East. Important areas can be this Mumbai, Vladivostok, this so not Mumbai, Chennai, Vladivostok link. So prepare these areas like India-Russia cooperation in Arctic. There is a possibility of asking question even on India-Russia cooperation in Indian Ocean. Though we were supposed to sign RELOS and a memorandum of understanding on naval cooperation, which has not been materialized, but at least in the strategic circle, scholars are talking about scope of cooperation in Indian Ocean also.
Thank you, ma'am. And with this, we come to an end of today's session. We'll meet soon with a different country. Thank you.